Right. So good evening, everybody. I want to call this initial meeting of the School Board Appointment Commission of Anne Arundel County to order. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, members of the Commission. I'm Bob Mosier, the Chief Communications Officer for the school system, and joining me tonight is Molly Connolly, the Executive Assistant to the Board. As I think you know, House Bill 716, which created this version of the Commission, designates the school system as staff for the Commission, and as such, with your consent, I'll guide the meeting through the first few steps until the Commission elects its leadership. At that point, the Commission's elected chair will take over running the meeting. First, a couple of logistical items. This body is empowered to appoint qualified individuals to seats on the Board of Education of Anne Arundel County as the board transitions to a fully elected board by the year 2020. There is currently one vacancy on the board, and that is an at-large seat. Details on the makeup of the commission and its duties can be found on the AACPS website at www.aacps.org/SBAC. 8 votes of commissioners are required to pass any action of the commission. We've set up an email address for the commission. If the public wishes to email, we'll make sure that that email gets to you. That email address is sbac@aacps.org. This meeting, as will be the case with all meetings, is televised live on AACPS TV and broadcast live on the internet on live stream. Archived videos of commission meetings will be posted on the AACPS website. There's a button on the microphone nearest you. Please push that button to turn the microphone on and pull it close to you when speaking. At this time, I'd like to ask the commissioners to introduce themselves, starting on my left and moving across the dais.
Hi, I'm Leanne Carmona. I'm the chair of the Special Education Citizens Advisory Committee.
Hi, my name is Allison Pickard, and I'm currently serving as the president of the Council of PTAs.
Good evening. My name is Mariko Bennett, and I am representing the National NAACP.
Hi, I'm Susanna Kipke, and I'm appointed by the county executive.
Good evening. I'm Ginger Vance, and I'm representing the Anne Arundel County Chamber of Commerce.
Good evening. I'm Jerry Klaschmeyer, and I represent Anne Arundel Community College.
I'm Penny Cantwell, and I represent West Anne Arundel County Chamber.
Brandenburg with county executive appointment.
Linda Ferrara, Association of Educational Leaders.
Josie Urea, and I'm the president of the Chesapeake Regional Association of Student Councils.
I'm Estefania Holler, and I'm vice president of the Council of PTA.
Thank you. I'd like everyone here and everyone watching to know that Commissioner Bill Jones, appointed by the Teachers Association of Anne Arundel County, and Commissioner Natalie Uribe, appointed by Casa de Maryland, could not be here tonight due to illness. Next, we'll move to item 4 on the agenda, which is election of leadership. Previously, the Commission has elected a chairman, a vice chairman, and a secretary. So at this time, I'd look to the commissioners for discussion and then action.
Emily Brandenburg. I served on this commission previously with the county executive appointment when he came into office in 2015 or 2016. I believe the previous positions worked fine with the vice chair, the chair, and the secretary. The role was the president. This was a president, not the vice president. President ran the meetings, took care of the email, that kind of stuff. The vice president stood in if in fact there was an issue, and the secretary kept notes and agendas and that sort of thing. And if it's okay with the commission, I would assume that we would just stay with those current roles. I'm assuming we have to vote on that. Is Tyson here?
I agree to that.
I agree with that too.
So all in favor? With that being said, I'd like to nominate Susanna Kipke as president. I believe that's what we just agreed to do. And some of my reasoning behind it is she served on this commission previously with me as well, and she's got some experience, but managed to stay sort of above or below the fray when it was all the crazy that went behind. And I think she'd be excellent to lead this commission forward as we look to decide what our next steps are.
She has my vote.
I second that notion.
Do we vote now?
You need a vote, yeah.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? And I'm assuming Susanna takes over for the rest?
That's correct, so I will turn this over to you.
So now we have to nominate and elect a vice chair? Or vice president? Are we chairman or president?
Well, her motion was to
President.
elect president,
All
vice
right.
president, and secretary.
All right, so we need a nomination for a vice president.
Oh,
I'd like to nominate Allison Pickard. Pickard, yes.
I second that.
well,
Do you have to accept this?
it's all right.
So we need nominations for secretary.
Do the responsibilities extend beyond minutes for the meeting?
No. Not historically, no.
I can take care of that.
Do we have to second it if someone self-nominates? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Next we have public participation. Should we set amongst ourselves an agreement about time limits for public commentary, and if so,
I propose 3 minutes.
3 minutes? I think that's what the school board does. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Well, yes, I think they do.
Okay.
And I'll second that motion.
All right. All in favor? Opposed? All right. So 3 minutes for public participation. Do people sign up? Forgive me for not knowing this. Do people sign up ahead of time for public comment?
We did not do that tonight, so you can just invite anyone from the audience who wishes to speak.
All right. This time, would anyone from the audience who wishes to speak please come up and tell us your name when you come up, please. Let me get a timer.
Jim Snyder. As many of you know, I was the leading student of the previous process for selecting Anne Arundel Board of Education members via a commission process. In the public notice for today's meeting, I saw no mention of an opportunity for public comment. Thank you for offering the opportunity for public comment on the agenda, which I picked up upon entering this room. The point I want to make is that it is essential to offer an opportunity for public comment at public meetings at which you decide on your procedures. As you may know, the last School Board Selection Commission held 2 secret meetings to select its initial procedures and was later reprimanded by Maryland's Open Meetings Compliance Board for that behavior. Though that, by the way, reprimand was not posted on the website, but it did happen. You can go to the Open Meetings Compliance Board to see it. Televising this meeting is a step in the right direction, but since Maryland's public right to know laws have a loophole that allow you to conduct secret deliberations via email, televising per se can easily mislead the public because it implies that the public actually has an opportunity to observe your critical deliberations. If that loophole is fully utilized, then a meeting's real format is transformed largely into a public hearing. But if it's a public hearing without allowing the public to testify, then it's a pseudo-public hearing. A real public hearing must allow public testimony. I would now like to point you to my extended essay on the previous School Board Selection Commission procedural abominations that couldn't withstand the light of day. It can be found at my blog at elighthouse.info under a post dated March 14th, 2016. I'm also submitting a copy for the public record, which I hope you will vote to include in your public record as an important record of this body. As an example of one issue I'd like you to address publicly, please announce your email policy, especially for the chair, vice chair, and secretary of this body. Previous practice of the chair was to use 4 private emails to conduct commission business, with all of that implies. So I think it's something that you should discuss and announce your policy publicly. So that's all. If you have any questions, I would be happy to hear. I'm handing in my testimony. I attended more meetings of the previous commission than anybody else, and certainly wrote probably by a factor of 10 more words than any reporter who ever covered the meeting, blow by blow. I do not plan to do that for yours, but I thought that given that background, you should benefit from it so you don't make the same mistakes, of which there were many as it came out in the last few years. So that's here, and I hope you will choose to include it in the public record. Is that?
Thank you. Yeah, you can give it to Mr. Melzer.
Any questions? I'd be happy to answer them, but that's all.
All right. Any questions? Thank you. Is there any more public testimony tonight? All right. Next, we have commission bylaws, which I hope you're going to help us with.
I'll give it a shot.
All right.
So what
Thank
you have
you.
in front of you and what's on the table over there for folks here is a red line version of an updated version of the last set of bylaws from the School Board Nominating Commission, in which I've simply taken and incorporated language language imposed by House Bill 716. There would be one other change that I would bring to your attention right now. In light of your vote to elect the president, vice president, and secretary, the language in the second line of Article 5 on page 5, commission officers, we should change, because it says chairperson, vice chairperson, and secretary. So just to make that consistent. But other than that, discussion on any changes to the bylaws, I would leave up to the commission.
Madam President, I have one small change. It's semantics, really. On the very first line, this commission shall be known as a school board appointment. We should strike nominating and then commission.
Do we make these changes?
You will vote on a set of bylaws, and then we'll incorporate the changes and post them on the website and send them to you.
All right. So the 2 changes that I have are in that first line, strike nominating, which just is exactly as it is written in the law. And then we need to change the names of the officers to president and vice president and so on. All right. Are those the only changes? Does anyone else have any changes or any more discussion? All right. Is there a motion to accept the bylaws with those 2 changes? All right. Second, yes.
Are we required to publish the bylaws before we adopt them?
Are we required to publish them before we adopt them?
That I do not know, honestly. I mean, you certainly can. We can certainly do that and put them on your website, and you can adopt them at your next meeting.
That would be the normal course of events in the regulation that was adopted, so you'd give the public a chance for input.
All right.
Happy to do that.
Thank you. So is there a motion to publish the bylaws and wait to vote on them until the next meeting?
I'll make the motion.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Oh.
So just for the record, I will publish them with those 2 changes incorporated.
Thank you. Other business. Is there any other business? to discuss tonight?
Well, yes.
Yes.
There's, my phone ringing. I assume we need to set another meeting and we need to decide how we're going forward
Yes.
with appointing someone?
Yes.
Because as there's a vacant seat, it's been vacant for a couple months, it's probably time to get moving on it.
Yeah, we do. We need to decide how we're. Has the method by which we call for applicants changed?
I don't believe the method by which you call for applicants has changed. The information that needs to be provided on an application has changed.
I did see that. Now, does the application exist, or do we need to create it?
We'll create it
Thank you.
with the changes.
Okay.
We'll take with this body's consent the former form, and we'll update it as we've done these bylaws.
Question.
Madam Chair. In preparation for service on this commission, I went back and looked at some tapes of some prior meetings, and I noticed that one of the meetings, there was a lot of discussion, I guess it was a couple of years ago, where there was an interval after candidates were interviewed, and then there was a subsequent meeting where other candidates were interviewed, and then the action was taken after that second meeting, that same night. So there was no interval of deliberation, if you will, between the first set of interviews and the second set of interviews. And it appeared to be at that time a little contentious. And I just wonder if we should, at the front end, make a decision about the sequence we're intending to follow in terms of interviews, a quiet period, and then the vote on the interviews, as opposed to voting on somebody the same night that they appear. So just a suggestion to avoid a downstream problem.
One of the concerns I had was when you're dealing with any type of personnel, my background is Director of Personnel and Staff Development for a school system, that there is an executive session. And that last meeting, we did not have an executive session. I think that's very important for this commission.
Well, my reason for raising the question was to be consistent in the way we treat the applicants. That's all. That was the point I was trying to make.
I understand. So would your preference, Commissioner Ferrara, would your preference be to have the executive session at the end of the final round of interviews and then vote at another session, or to have the executive session and then vote on the same day?
I would wait. In other words, have that executive session at the end of all those interviews. Obviously, we take notes for our questions, and there are certain things that you can discuss in executive session that you cannot discuss in public. And that's just part of procedurals. And I think that the school system also does that. The school board, when they talk about any personnel whatsoever, they go into executive session.
Okay, so there's two parts of this. One proposition is that we have an executive session following all of our interviews, and the other is that we hold voting at a separate time from the time that the interviews are held. So should we break that up into two separate motions, since it's two different issues? Okay. Let's take the executive session one first. Is there any more discussion about that? Do we have to? Do we?
Question about the executive session. Under the Public Meetings Act, there's 9 or 10 or 11 exceptions which permit you to go into executive session. And do we know that the executive session you're talking about conforms to those requirements?
As far as I know, yes. From my
Do we have a legal opinion that confirms
I think
that?
that's an opinion the commission would need to seek from the Attorney General's office.
I just think it's important that if we're going to plan to go into executive session, that we've got the legal authority to do it.
I agree with you.
It isn't anything you fool around with, because there are fines and all that kind of stuff.
I don't disagree. That's what I was going to ask is, do we have to put it in our bylaws that we go into executive session, or can it be a decision that we make at the time?
Okay. As I said, my experience has been director of personnel for a school system, and when you discuss
into executive session.
Okay.
When the school board recesses into closed session, they read a very specific list, and they've checked off exactly what things is on their agenda for closed session. And appointments are usually one of those things. I can't remember, it's a long list. And
Correct.
And anything that they failed to check when they closed the public part of the board meeting cannot be discussed unless we go back out and publicly, which doesn't happen because the school board's very organized. I think it has once or twice. But otherwise, you have to come back out and publicly announce why you're going back. But there is a list that the school board has, and I think discussion of appointments is on that list. Personnel
It is.
issues.
Personnel is
Yeah,
on the-
it's pretty.
Would that same checklist apply to us?
I think it's for the legal opinion, just across.
Oh, well, I agree.
Yeah.
That's always wise.
Yeah.
But that, it has to do with the Open Meetings Act.
So maybe we can get that checklist once we have a legal opinion. I know that we can do it. All right, so that's something to discuss.
So can I make a motion that we seek legal opinion from the Attorney General's office as far as next steps concerning executive session? Okay. That's my motion then.
Yes. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Oh, sorry.
All right. Okay, so but now we do have to talk about whether to vote in the same session that we're doing the interviews. Now, we have to have, by law, 2 meetings, correct, prior to
Right.
appointing anybody?
The law says the commission shall hold at least 2 public hearings on the candidates before making an appointment to the county board.
Law about when we vote.
Not that I see.
All right, so we have to have at least 2 public hearings. Now, what if we have a public hearing and we only have enough candidates to fill up that 1 public hearing, then we can have a second one, and then we could vote after that second public hearing? It's just an opportunity for the public to come and speak? Is that
I think you can, it says you have to hold at least 2 public hearings, and I think how you set those up is up to you.
All right, so it's likely that we would end up voting at the second meeting anyway, if we didn't have, although we have had in the past enough applicants to fill up 2 meetings.
And you have to get 10 days notice.
And you have to, that's true, we have to get 2 meetings on it. All right, well, so is there any discussion about when voting should take place in relation to when we've done the interviews?
I'd like to make a movement to have the voting take place in the second meeting to prevent unnecessary meetings where that could possibly be accomplished. Unless there was a real need with numbers to go through the candidates, I would think that voting could take place in the second meeting.
Whether or not we're doing interviews in the second meeting?
That's a good point. Again, numbers, yeah. I guess that would be dictated by numbers.
So your preference too is to vote at a separate meeting from the one where we do the interviews?
No, my preference would be, because we have to hold a minimum of 2 meetings, that the voting would take place in the second meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I just remind everyone to turn your microphones on before you speak?
Yes.
Thank you.
So the motion on the table is to hold the voting at our second public meeting, regardless of whether we have more interviews to do at that second meeting. Is that correct?
Correct.
Right. Is there a second of that motion? All right. What do I do if there's no second?
Then the motion fails.
Okay. All right. Would you like to make a motion that we vote at a separate meeting?
I would propose that we just adopt a policy or a standard that after all interviews are conducted, there'd be a 10-day interval between the last interview and when we vote. That way, regardless of how many people there are to be considered, there will be a reasonable time for deliberations before we actually vote on who we would recommend.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Is there a second? All in favor? Or is there discussion?
That seems like a long time, 10 days. But maybe it's not. I just think, I think it's a long time. We're trying to fill a vacant seat that's been vacant. I realize we're creating procedure that's going to be used going forward for the next
2 years.
2 years in lieu of, in case there's a vacancy. But right now, there's a vacant seat. So we know we have to come up with an application. We know we need to announce that and let people actually apply. Then we need to schedule interviews, and then, I mean, we're looking at a long time of leaving the seat vacant. So obviously, it's hard to know how many applicants you would get, so it's hard to know how many scheduled public hearings we would need to interview applicants. But after they're all done, 10 days is a long time.
Well, don't we have to have an advertisement of the fact of the meetings as well? In other words, from the time you have the last interview,
From the time you vote.
you'd have to have a public notice of when you're going to meet to act. And 10 days doesn't seem long, given the requirement for the public notice.
Okay, fair enough.
I don't think.
It's just.
It has to be 10 days. We
Yeah.
have to,
Okay.
yeah, we have to.
If we don't vote after, I got you. If we don't vote
Well, maybe that's
when
why I
the
said 10
interviews are
days.
done. Okay.
Right. So our choice is,
Okay, I got you.
but if we do all of our interviews in that first public meeting, then the second public meeting can also be a voting session at the end if we're not doing interviews then. Correct? Yes, okay. 10 days. All right. I'm sorry, could you repeat your motion?
Regardless of how many candidates there are to be interviewed, it will have 10 days elapsed from the end of the interviews until we vote.
And there was a second already. And we have, is there any more discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Now we need to set a date for our next meeting, correct? And we, do we publish the notice that that we're taking applications for the vacancy, you're taking care of?
You will give us direction and we will publish it.
Okay. All right, so we need to set a date. And I believe you said that you all have a calendar of
Yeah,
when.
Ms. Connolly has a calendar there.
All right.
Basically, this room is open, wide open, the entire month of July. We have meetings in here in the morning and in the afternoon, but there's nothing after 4 o'clock.
Okay. Emily, do you happen to remember, Commissioner Brandenburg, I'm sorry, do you happen to remember how long we allowed in the past for applicants, like how much time we gave?
I believe it was 30 days.
It was 30 days, okay. So that would put us in July.
Yeah, I think, well, first we have to approve the application.
Mhm.
And then once this body approves the application, then we can post it and send notice that we are in fact accepting the next
Correct.
30 days. Can we approve that application
Via email?
via
Do you
email,
know
or does
that
it
I was
have to
gonna
be
ask
I would think in the spirit of transparency, you would approve that application at a public meeting. At which, so you could schedule a meeting to approve that application and take care of other business, be it this legal opinion that you're seeking and that kind of stuff. And at that meeting, set a date for. Right. 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 I don't think you have to publicly vote on a date that you're going to release the application, right? But.
But we do have to set a date to get together to approve the application.
Right.
All right. So that one we'd like to have soon because we'd like to get this out there and start getting applicants as quickly as possible.
I just have a question.
Yes.
How long do you estimate that the legal opinion would take?
In the past, how long has it taken? No, it's pretty quick, I think. Yeah, it won't take weeks and weeks,
Okay.
certainly. Yeah.
So you have to post this 10 days in advance for people, the public, to know
Correct.
that we're going to have.
Right.
Correct.
Oh, you're right. Yes.
So if you pick a date
Yes.
now, it has to be at least 10 days from now. That's
business days or calendar days?
I think the law says days.
Okay. So realistically, that would put us into the week of the 19th, June 19th. How are Tuesday nights for everyone? Tuesday the 20th, is that free here? 20th is free here? How is that for everyone? No, doesn't work for you?
Well, that's the night of the cruise for the.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct.
Let's not do that. What about Thursday the 22nd?
I would not be there,
Oh, good question. Could the majority of us be here on Tuesday night?
I will be the only one that won't be here Tuesday night.
I mean, that would be another question too. Bob, like if we don't have 8 members who can attend, do we then vote by majority or do we have to have 8 for any?
You have to have 8, the law says you have to have 8 votes to pass any action.
Which means we have to. Right. But what's the minimum number that we have to have present to have a meeting? 8?
Well,
If we're going to vote on something.
yeah, because you, yeah.
Right. All right. What about the 27th? It is, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What about the 15th? The 15th is exactly 10 days. You would prefer the 15th? Me too, because that's my daughter's birthday, but she's turning 1. She doesn't know.
So can everyone meet at 7?
Yes. On what
Is
day?
that a good time?
It's a 15th
So
for
can we,
everybody.
is 7 is good for me. Is the 5th? We're back to the 15th though. That's exactly 10 days. Although if it's exactly 10 days, then we'd have to publish the notice of the meeting today, right? Yeah.
What about the 19th? Is that Mondays now?
19th works for me.
Is there any reason we can't put a calendar together with dates well in advance? In other words, instead of going a date at a time, identify a sequence we want to follow and advertise it all at one time. And then adhere to that schedule.
We can do,
So
we
like
can
a
do that.
So we're not
second
doing
Tuesday of
ad hoc.
every month kind of thing?
That seems reasonable.
Well, can the majority of people go the 27th? Because we don't want to have people absent if possible.
Well, we said the 19th
The
is one of
19th.
the options.
The
So it's a
19th.
Monday.
It's a
Anybody
Monday.
free the 19th?
Yes, I am free.
Everybody free on the 19th? 19th
No,
at
you're
7
gonna be
o'clock?
We're going to be on vacation.
It's fine.
But everyone else.
But we have a
can do
majority.
The 19th at 7 o'clock. We
And
need to
the
vote
two
on it.
people that are not here,
Only one would be the 19th. Oh, and
Well, there would still be.
we're missing 2 people.
We are missing 2 people.
but we would still have the
We
majority,
would still
right?
have. Yeah, we would still have.
And we
enough
would be
people.
closer to the 10-day.
Yeah, an administrative meeting like this, I'd like to get done as quickly as possible, so we can get the application out as quickly as possible. So
And
then
also
I-
to vote on the bylaws, because if we put them out today, we can vote on the bylaws and also have the public hearing, so anybody who has any objections on our bylaws can speak.
Right.
And then that would also speed up our process.
We have to post those on the website.
Yes, they'll be posted right as soon as possible.
I'll take care of that tomorrow morning.
Yeah, if we post that and our meeting tomorrow morning, then we will be exactly more than 10 days.
Yes. Okay.
And we would be right on time.
All right. So the 19th at 7 o'clock. Does that work for the calendar? Does that work for most of us? All right. So that'll be our next meeting. Do we need to vote on meeting times? All right. Shall we then schedule right now the first meeting And the second meeting for our interviews? All right, let's do
Yes.
that. So that puts us into July, so if we want 30 days, let's see, from the 19th.
It's a Wednesday.
What is it legally we need to do in posting a position?
Say that again.
What
I didn't hear
do
you.
we legally have to do, in other words, to post a position?
I think you publicly advertise it. I mean, we would put it on our website. We would mail it to our school system news release distribution list, which includes all the media outlets and
Because usually you need to give some time to people.
right.
They may not see it. This is summertime, and we want, obviously, quality candidates for this position. I'd say at least 2 weeks.
I think we're talking 30 days.
We have to do 30 days.
We have to do our 30 days?
You don't have to, but I think that's what we decided.
Okay.
Would work.
All right.
At least 30 days from when you post it.
At least 30
Until you start the
days.
interviews.
Okay.
So that puts us at the 19th, the 20th, or the following week, the week of the 24th. You said that all the days in July are free, mostly. Is that correct? Okay.
July is open.
Okay. So it's on us. So we need to do it past the 19th, right? That yeah. All right. So what about that? What about the 24th? That Monday? If Mondays are good for people.
Yeah, works for me.
I'm sorry.
I'm wondering if Mondays in the summer are going to be difficult because folks come back from vacation.
Okay.
Generally speaking, I mean, I don't know. And I go on, Fridays and Mondays in the summer are difficult, but for folks that vacation.
I think that's good.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
We could do the Thursday the 20th.
What about Thursday the 20th? Does that work for everyone? Thursday
I
the
won't be able to do it.
You won't be able to do it. You, I'm sorry. You want to do? No.
We should do the whole trying to pick a like, if we stick to every Monday of a certain month, it would, or every Tuesday, and have that consistency, I think we would have people come. If you really are interested and really are wanting to be here, you would be here. And I understand vacation times and school, but I think that we can't also please everybody at this point. We need to really have the majority of us available to the public as well.
What about the next week? The 25th.
The 25th? Is that Tuesday?
Tuesday.
That works for me. Does that work?
July 25th.
July 25th, a Tuesday. July 25th at 7 o'clock? Does that work for
That's
everyone?
gonna be the first meeting for interviews.
The first meeting for interviews, yes. All right, July 25th, 7 p.m. All right. Then the next meeting, now, the next meeting doesn't have to be 10 days later if we have announced the next meeting already, correct?
Correct.
So it could be just the next week or the next day or the next,
If you announce this entire schedule tomorrow,
yeah.
then you've met your 10-day
Okay.
notice.
So that frees us up from that, except that it doesn't free us up from now our newly adopted rule of waiting 10 days to vote. So, I'm sorry? I know, but I'm saying, can we do the next meeting the next week, or do we have to wait 10 days? I know, but we do have to wait 10 days because we just voted to wait 10 days to vote. Although I guess to interview, we'll just do it the next week.
Can I try to help for 1 second?
Yes, please.
So if you had enough interviews for a second night,
Mhm.
you wouldn't have to wait 10 days.
Right.
Because if you did 2 days of interviews,
All right.
then
We can
Commissioner
vote.
Klassmeyer's motion, which passed, would then require you to go 10 days before a third meeting, which would be the voting.
Correct. Okay.
And if you didn't have enough for a second, you could just cancel that meeting.
But
Okay.
I thought we're required to have at least 2.
We are, but the voting session could count as a second public meeting. It would
right.
still be a public meeting.
You could
It just
take
wouldn't be
testimony.
interviews, yes. Okay.
So maybe we should try to do schedule a tentative second day of interview, like the 26th or 27th, knock
Mhm.
them all out, and then choose a day 10 days later
Yeah,
to vote.
I agree. All right, so the 26th, does that work for everyone for a tentative second day of interviews?
26.
26th,
So we'll do back-to-back interviews?
yes.
Did you say the 26th?
Yes.
Okay.
Does that work for everyone? Okay, so we'll schedule that. 26th is tentative, and that again will be at 7 p.m. All right. Should we schedule the 10-day later? Let's do it. All right. So that would be 10 days, though, for the 26th, just to be safe. 1, 2, 3. So that puts us into
August.
August. It does. I'll be away that whole, the 4th to the 11th, but it doesn't matter. What works for people?
I can't until the end of August.
You can't do the end of August. And I can't, well, we won't schedule around me.
What about the 14th?
What about the 14th? That works for me. Does it work for everyone else?
14th
The
at
14th?
7.
14th at 7?
I'm out.
Oh, that's exciting.
Going back early.
Yeah, they still.
So the 14th at 7 for everyone?
So that would
That for
be
me, no. But
No?
Yes.
Well,
I can't.
that's 3 of you that can't,
Okay,
so.
Now, how does
What
it,
about-
excuse me, how would it work if Bob Burden has offered to come and represent the chamber as a special interest group?
you can't
Can't
do the
vote no.
process.
You used to be able to, right? But can't now. Can you vote in absentia? Can you send in your vote? You just, okay. Okay. What about the 24th of that week, the Thursday? Or the 22nd? Do any other days that week work? Oh, I'm sorry, the 15th or the 16th?
For me,
17th?
none that week, but the next
None
week.
that week.
is good.
Or after? Oh,
Why don't we raise our hands in the weeks and see how many, so we have a majority,
Yeah.
okay.
and then we'll pick a date in between that week.
So starting on the week of the 7th?
Who's
Is that
free?
right? Looks like most people are free.
But you aren't, and
I'm
we
not.
should have our president attending.
Well, I appreciate that. Let's see if there's no other days. I don't want to delay it forever just because I'm on vacation. What about the week of the 14th? Week of the 21st.
Are we, we're
Most of
holding our
us,
hand
no?
if we're available?
If we're available,
If we're
yes.
available, hold your hand up, yeah, to have an idea.
Okay.
The
So
sad thing is that we're still missing 2
we
members
are,
to
I
be
know,
able
and
to
that's so
perform, but-
unfortunate. I really regret that we're missing them. So the week of the 28th? Gosh, that's such a long time.
Yeah,
That is,
But just the week.
that's very late notice.
Oh, school goes back, so we really should.
Labor Day.
After Labor Day. Yes.
That's right.
That's the week we should be back, but we're not.
I have a 2-year-old too. So should we do the week of the I don't know. The week of the 21st? I know that's.
in the week?
I'm sorry?
Later in the week?
Later in the
Yeah,
week,
later
sure.
in the week will
Sure.
work for me.
What about the 24th?
I could do the 24th.
You can do the 24th. Can anyone do. Who can do the 24th of August?
I think.
Okay.
I think, but I'm not sure.
Okay. But it's better than the 21st, right?
Yes.
For everyone?
The 20, yes.
Okay. All right.
So that's it.
Let's do the 24th of August for our voting date.
That gives you time to deliberate.
Certainly does.
It gives you time to reflect. I think that's important.
Yeah. Jill. Okay. That's right, we have to do that now. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
In the event of anything, can we change that date, or will we have to be dedicated to the 24th?
I think we can change it. It can be changed. And we can cancel it if we only have enough applicants to interview that first day.
Mhm.
We can then meet the following day and vote because we still will have given the 10 days notice for
Perfect.
that. Yeah. So it may be that. Absolutely.
I'm not sure that's correct.
You're not sure that's correct?
Well, Commissioner Klassmeyer's motion
Oh,
was passed, said that there would be 10 days
You're right.
between the final interview and a vote,
You're right.
if I understood it correctly.
Can you
That was my intention.
Can I ask a question? So, at our next meeting, which we set for June 19th, one of the agenda items is to finalize, I guess, the application so that can be made public. Is it the understanding of the group that we're going to be editing or revising the application that has been used for the last 8 years? Or are we starting from a blank piece of paper?
The previous commission recently updated. That was one of the things that we took on, and then we updated to include background check and general information, so there was no concern as to what the commission was doing versus what the appointment office at the governor's staff was doing. Now that's completely changed because we're now an appointing commission. We're not a nominating commission. But we did make those changes to the application, and it had 3 or 4 additional, even 5 or 6 additional things you had to do, as well as we changed some of the questions and added additional questions. So it has been revamped and reworked in the last 18 months or so. It's not one that was from 8 years ago.
I'm sure I filled out the new one at one point.
But can we get a copy of it sent to us to look at before the meeting? That'd be great. Thank you.
The revamp, we're approving the application that you have revamped, is that correct? At our June 19th meeting, or we are revamping it at that meeting?
Well, I mean, if you'd like to direct us to incorporate what's in the law into the existing application, we can certainly do that, and then you all can go from there, much as you did with these, much as you look at the bylaws.
Yeah, I think we'd like to do that, don't
Yes.
Yes, yes. Do we need?
Can we see the application between now and the time we
Yeah,
have to vote on
if
it?
you,
Yes.
do you have it, Ms. Brandon?
I can get it.
Okay.
I'm sure that.
I'd be happy to.
Okay, I'll give it to you.
All right. What else do we need to vote to ask you to do the application?
good.
Or? Okay. Listen, I don't want to leave anything undone here. All right, so that takes care of everything on our agenda. Is there anything else that needs to be discussed tonight?
When will we see those applications, the new application?
I'm going to try to get it and see if the Bob.
As soon as I get it, I'll send it to you.
Okay.
And we'll send out the notice of your meeting schedule tomorrow.
Okay.
And put the bylaws on. So just so I'm clear, what's on the agenda for the 19th is the application, the discussion of the legal opinion if we have it back, and the bylaws.
And to make it a public hearing, right? And to make it a public hearing, or no?
To make,
I had public hearing, somebody had said that for that next administrative meeting. Did I have that written wrong?
I believe I
There'll
said
be
that
a
about the
public partic-
bylaws.
there'll be a public participation part
Yeah.
of the meeting, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, oh, okay, okay.
Right. And we'll have to vote to adopt the bylaws, correct?
Correct.
Yep. All right. Any other discussion or concerns? Things we need to take care of that we haven't yet?
I'd just like to be clear, who is responsible for putting out the agenda for the next meeting?
I will put it together and share it with the president,
Okay, thank you.
and if she's okay with it, then I'll put it out. If that,
And who requests the legal opinion formally? Is that the president, or is that?
I think it probably has to be the president.
Okay.
But I'm happy to work. with-
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. And who, this is not for the next meeting, but who on this commission, or are we all, who is responsible for doing the background, doing the judiciary search that's now required by law?
That's a question we've asked of the folks down at the Attorney General's office, so we'll have that answer for you.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second?
We have to vote? All in favor? Opposed? All right, adjourned.
You know, all the years I've been working in government,